냠제 전부도 유미종 또는 전부가 자다 다그러 다른 전도 시험은 또만 제자라기 시험잘.
To liberate sentient beings, please generate the supreme bodhicitta before we start today's teaching.
브람제니 베테랑 신도데 대신 덕저 남브런 렘바이 만발라는 모브름 캠베나 산지에서 양저지 마튼데 교는 양통아 이외에노 더란 직든 곰베갑서밤 초거럽 샹치라는 서지 람강 곰바 산지에 남 여러와 라나 라마 라멘 람나 텔레 워크종 쇼더 대비르 데르샤 베갑서네 샹치브산 과 톱친 mambola 제다 회다 시와 적적 덕적 기경 라멘 람던 도르디르 체지달레 토네나 샤좀 조금 때나 때금 피드 산지 선은 직된 던저지 때마다의 양도 롱탄바 춤존던 양도 종기때 자르트지 남라노 담바야 저트르메티 예프튼 데브전더 넘버는 잼바텐지 레브제도 거르워터 급산바 넘버 셈 산잼존더 남나 랍진자 자르산제 자르이시 랍토샷모케 자르이시 이시엔더너 돈마 니르 다니다 냥안 레냐 다르토 이시엔더 좀레나 잔마 종 산제남지 정급고토네 다자남이 또 간저때 춘도 탐치 zam에 제와테 고바타나티 넘버판 도너 추르남 강양 맘치제 데르트르삼나 tapar majir to sanji jivlana me bala dakcha yan tina mari jan dakcha nam yang de la marmonte jaru ndo tambim tarak son so nyan de bim tatik linda la tomba nyen yan ran yons gum kansum de ngor zerle yons tara dakcha kiner jaru tamba gid jaru che la kanse raptante shanchim chogla 양덕 쓰지바 대덕라는 주강 접샷바 대덕 대라 덕적 남이야 레맘치 덕적 직된 로폰 랑숑거 디라 제브람자네 야르바르자 덕적 남나 따바 라프터네 양덕 대웅 공측돈 테마 샤더 데 탐케 페나 데 탐케 페나 처터바 디스 노르마 보이 키버타라 맘바 따바웨 럭버럽터 터네텔라 노리야 랍터서 타블람케 베랍터 톰자테 엄알라무 버치름더 음자짱 터네산지시 테스토르와 지금 공부션도 흑가암자도 산지 담반달라 덕처남 도민제여서 담바 토 지르터 고르보 노르는 니바진 테람 차라 덕처 몸서 토 덕처 좀 간는 연랑도 지금 캠비 단라 럭종와 공부 문제츠 좀 샤바이 대임제 테랑 덕처 토 참버 쇼밤 초르버 남다바 젬바탄라 신드니바 기 대임제와 제와 캬버 잔 야치는 저바 맘시 테랑 토 공부 테랑 덕처 종지르데 장집담바 양덕 저버 게 장집바이 자연 랍터 조도 데 덕처 조버 무자드마 바 공부당 덕처 고지르데 하던 집인 지든 어떤 제 참버 집이 셈전 탐치지 덕처 신도 초버 우발락 메인 지든 다나 감가와 가완던자 덕처금 잡베나 가로시어 망보로 바베 장 졸라 란룬 줄라 란룬 룬 토칼람치 고당 럭바당너 강웨장 란드 밤브르 기바신더가 건거시니 가로 조버양 고당 차글라양 그 건기 계로당 자 자당 자당 꿈당 꾸남당 마르체탄당 땅고 땅고 친보 버 잔단 따글레 흑슬럭 감티테 주위 랩치그랍터 땅와당 나지 수르만 남바 망보양 데브럭셔밤 추치르 땅버티 공고롱 니도 카르버 파르와양 데라 남양 란룬룬모 토고 란룬룬모 토 총매든 텀가 체비 줄던 바 조피스토는 좀 지르는라 산지디아치 좀이 자라이 시바도 건던자 신도 조 대진 떡더 짐튼 대진 떡더 지슴 던지기점 참마쇼바 남라 주던데 주지왕신 지된 건라와 왕식 진본지된 정원부 샘상내 노랍덤 견네 소수를 주bar namba mamburur tun dedok mubar na zum kennes gyapchuk tungo rapta chuncha tu semchen tamche tang ganzak devjing shig bishyo param kenne shangchil san hwan dun raptun jang churnur namba mambo shindok son tambi chupa makar wole mubi lega ji shawar te je pa wo
Today, during the National Day holiday week, we observe many sincere Buddhists gathered here peacefully. This is primarily because there is some free extra time, which definitely encourages more people to come and humbly pay their respects. There are also some individuals who are not fully devoted to Buddhism completely, but they do have a strong interest in Buddhist studies. Today, some of them might also be present here with us. It seems that in the past couple of days, in the Lurung Gar, there were especially many people, a huge crowd, a sea of people. I said, maybe even Jujaigu doesn't have this many people. That day, people were lining up the whole time. Actually, it was very hard for them. They had to sit on the bus for a long time. Then they typically take 2 or 3 quick photos here, and then they leave. It's really exhausting. They spent over 10 hours on the bus. And then you should only plan to stay here for just a minute or 2 at the most. Some people don't even properly circumambulate the mandala. They just walk around it once in the completely wrong direction and then leave. This isn't really good or effective either. Today, some of you are just beginning to learn about the profound teachings of Buddhism, or are people who have a favorable impression of Buddhism and are interested in it. I hope that in the future you will look more into some of the principles of Buddhist studies. In fact, Buddhist studies should actually be very helpful for your daily lives and well-being, because the problems we humans face today, many of them can't be solved by material means. Some can only be resolved through our minds. And when it comes to solving things through the mind itself, actually, religion, as we well know from thousands of years of human history, religion has played a very important, crucial role in our daily lives. So, everyone gathered here, of course you take some photos naturally, for example, of the red houses, blue sky, and white clouds. But there are just simply too many photos like that, unfortunately. After you take them, you end up deleting them from your phone, taking more and deleting again. This is important too for us, but it's not as meaningful as truly gaining some profound compassion and genuine altruism within your own heart, as well as a sense of deep happiness, serene calmness, and peaceful meditation. If you can truly preserve these kinds of precious inner photos or mental images, it's even better and more beneficial. If you're genuinely interested in coming to the magnificent Qinghai Tibet Plateau, and now many people are very interested in Tibetan Buddhism, but for most people, photos of lamas debating are quite often just, these kinds of photos are now mostly useless and no longer serve their original purpose. So it's best to truly learn and internalize more deeply in your heart. That's one very important thing. Also, some of our dedicated and experienced teachers here, some of them have recently returned, while others may still be attending some schools. I truly and especially want to thank all of you very much indeed. Here, for various important reasons, we have different dedicated people who are truly devoted to helping, including those diligently working in engineering, charity, and many other significant areas, thanks to your continued efforts. Whether in the Tibetan regions or the Han regions, many individuals who unfortunately lack sufficient proper knowledge or wealth, through the diligent and collective sustained efforts of everyone involved, have truly and profoundly changed their destinies, fundamentally transforming their lives significantly. Even if it's just one person, maybe staying in one place for a year or 2, or doing things that might actually seem quite ordinary or even really mundane on the surface. But in reality, when you actually do it, indeed, it truly is something profoundly great. Perhaps it won't necessarily be meticulously recorded in the annals of our history, but in actual fact, this is something of immense importance for all of humanity. You could definitely say it is the most meaningful, significant thing ever, as faithfully recorded in the great ancient scriptures. So I deeply feel that this time today, I especially want to wholeheartedly thank everyone present here. All the dedicated, devoted volunteers, teachers, organizers, and so on. To each and every one of you who has served as a dedicated volunteer, I am especially and profoundly grateful. I actually wanted to meet with all of you in person and have a meaningful chat, but I've been quite busy and occupied all along with various commitments, so I'm not entirely sure. If there is a suitable chance in the future, I would also very much like to talk and connect with everyone. Thank you all very much for your invaluable contributions. At the same time, throughout the entire process of our study of the Lotus Sutra, there have also been many dedicated and truly committed volunteers. They have been working very, very hard and wholeheartedly, because without everyone's efforts, including some online volunteers, if we didn't have them, indeed it would be quite difficult for so many of us to truly enjoy the magnificent feast of the Dharma together in a shared and meaningful way. There would definitely be some challenges. So today, at this very moment, I truly and especially want to thank all of you as well. Next, I will briefly and concisely talk about the final section of Chapter 4 of the Lotus Sutra, which is a very important and profound Buddhist scripture. I will just go over it simply, word by word, explaining each part in detail to ensure clarity and understanding for everyone. Actually, today I've been thinking quite a lot about this particular section and its implications. We are truly blessed. From beginning to end, the Lotus Sutra, perhaps we are able to get through almost all of it, at least on the literal level. This is a kind of good fortune for us. We are endowed with all our faculties. We have obtained a human body and encountered the Dharma. And we have also met many good friends and Dharma companions. Such a wonderful convergence of causes and conditions. If we can truly go through the entire Lotus Sutra from beginning to its very end, at least being able to explain it on the literal level, I really feel that life is very meaningful indeed. We all have access to such truly supreme and profound Dharma. And even just hearing about it is something truly inconceivable and utterly amazing. Today we are also relatively busy here, unfortunately, today, so I won't elaborate too much further on this matter at all. Earlier we talked about an elder man specifically before. In order for his only son to properly inherit the substantial, considerable material wealth he had carefully accumulated over his whole lifetime, this was his own child after all. But because they had been truly separated as father and son for well over 50 long years, they no longer recognized each other at all. If at that critical time he had directly said immediately, "I am actually your father, and everything valuable here is entirely yours," because his son's mental capacity was very limited indeed back then. For this reason, he simply would not have been able to accept it. So this father was extremely, extremely wise. In the very end, what role did he truly play himself? He took on the role of someone at the absolute bottom, much like a humble beggar. He lived that kind of life together with his son for a long time. Finally, when his son was basically able to accept it, he handed over all his property to him just before his deathbed. So what does this illustrate? Many of us only focus on this story itself. We think, this old man is so pitiful. The other day I joked, I haven't slept for several days either. Actually, I was just joking. We all might be very much concerned about this particular situation, but in actual fact, behind this intriguing and thought-provoking metaphor, what is the deeper meaning it conveys? For each and every one of us, as dedicated Mahayana Buddhists, we also play the significant role of the elder. In the future, when we are helping and adapting to sentient beings, we should also be able to play such a significant and crucial role ourselves. This is extremely, extremely important indeed, because right now, some of us unfortunately lack the necessary skillful means, when in fact, we could help these sentient beings. But sometimes, because we speak too bluntly, honestly, or perhaps our minds are too rigid and inflexible entirely, for these very particular reasons, many important things that should have truly succeeded end up getting completely messed up. This happens both in our daily lives and in spreading the Dharma to benefit others. Such situations occur frequently in many processes. Therefore, in this context, especially in the chapter on willing acceptance, this metaphor is very famous. We are always reminded of it at all times. In the Lotus Sutra, there is such an old elder. But how did this old elder act? So, when we are interacting with different groups of people, we first need to understand them. We do not have the ability to read others' minds. Of course, if we had that ability, it would be best. If we don't have it when interacting with others, actually, it's quite easy to interact with people. After interacting with someone for about an hour or two, basically, you can generally figure out most people's core personalities and their interests. I've mentioned this before as well on several occasions. The people around us actually, whether you have a good relationship with them or not, are all like police officers. We ourselves can act as police officers. In process of guiding sentient beings, observe what person likes, what this person carefully considers and truly studies, and what this person deeply needs. At this time, through the profound and abundant spiritual wealth of the Dharma, its teachings and wisdom, we can select a portion that suits them and offer the right remedy for their situation. This is very important. So today, let's continue right after where we left off. Earlier, the child was deeply thinking to himself in the past. The son vividly recalls his former poverty and his lowly aspirations, that specific part. Because just before this, when the very old elder was about to die, he officially entrusted all his hard-earned accumulated wealth and faithful devoted people to this only precious son of his at last. At that very moment, the son thought to himself, I used to be so incredibly, really quite poor, and my personal character was especially difficult, back then, you see. In other words, his aspirations. He never truly imagined that he would indeed be so successful today. He never dared to hope for a comfortable life like the one he has now currently at all. Today, because his father generously gave him such a great and supreme, invaluable, precious treasure freely, and also a luxurious, spacious house estate, as well as abundant wealth and so on, he was truly overwhelmed with surprise and joy. This kind of happiness was quite unprecedented for him. The circumstances were indeed truly incredible. He used to be a very poor person, and suddenly he became extremely wealthy. In fact, what he possessed himself. If we come to recognize the true nature of our own mind, it is actually the same for all of us. For example, when we talk about Vajrayana teachings, we directly point out the nature of mind to everyone. Originally, we were very miserable in our daily lives, every day constantly controlled by afflictions and suffering greatly. But once we rely on the methods of Vajrayana practice, or the methods of Chan, Zen practice, and truly recognize the wish-fulfilling jewel of your mind, then from that moment on, you will no longer be spiritually impoverished like others. This is also from another perspective. We all know that many great masters, when they attained enlightenment, expressed different kinds of joyful songs, and various expressions that naturally flowed from their awakened state. Many profound Vajra songs of realization are indeed like this as well. The enlightened Buddha was precisely the same. At that particular time, it was the Venerable Kashyapa who clearly stated this. The Buddha was exactly the same. He knew very well that beings like us, with the inherent capacity for the Hinayana path, all truly prefer the smaller, more accessible teachings. He never explicitly said, "You will definitely become Buddhas in the future without a doubt." Among the assembly of Śrāvakas, the Buddha basically never explicitly mentioned the specific word Bodhi, which means enlightenment. Instead, he consistently said that we have already attained the stainless, and according to the Hinayana school's own view, it means we have already achieved cessation, the stainless state, attained the Hinayana accomplishment, and become Śrāvaka disciples. The Buddha also never said that we would attain Bodhi in the future. In the future, within the comprehensive scope of the Hinayana path, one diligently attains the elevated state of a Śrāvaka disciple or an Arhat. Subsequently, the Buddha then taught us the truly supreme path. In fact, when our spiritual faculties gradually matured and became fully developed, the Buddha said to us, "I teach you the supreme and ultimate path." Moreover, if one diligently practices the Mahayana Dharma, if one truly practices this, then one will definitely attain complete Buddhahood. This is something that the Buddha also told some of the venerable Arhats. For example, in volume 76 of the extensive Mahaprajna Paramita Shastra, it is also explicitly mentioned that the esteemed Shariputra practiced the Bodhisattva path for a significant period of 60 kalpas. Later, for various and diverse reasons, although he ultimately abandoned the profound Mahayana teachings, he still continually expounded the Dharma and taught Mahayana teachings. There are indeed such examples as well. Also, the Venerable Subhuti attained the samadhi of non-contention, which is truly the samadhi free from all disputes. He also diligently taught fundamental doctrines such as impermanence and non-self. He also expounded many Mahayana Buddhist teachings. And for example, the Venerable Mahakashyapa, when he was residing at Mount Kukutapada in the very, very, very end, because he entrusted the Dharma to Venerable Ananda, he himself entered into the meditative absorption of cessation. Once Maitreya Bodhisattva eventually appears in this world, the majestic mountain will then split completely open, and he will emerge forth from his deep meditative state. When he finally emerges from his profound samadhi, at that very significant time, many people will undoubtedly say that he was indeed a Śrāvaka from the ancient time of Shakyamuni Buddha. At that time it will truly appear as if he is entering the Mahayana and so on. Venerable Kashyapa also taught quite a great deal about the Mahayana. He also demonstrated the profound Mahayana nirvana, an ultimate state. Other Śrāvakas and Pratyekabuddhas are the same way, therefore relying deeply on the profound teachings of Buddhism for the truly great and compassionate bodhisattvas of the Mahayana tradition. They have also skillfully utilized various profound causes and conditions, insightful analogies and eloquent expressions, all meticulously presented, and have spoken of the unsurpassed path. So in fact, the Śrāvakas and Pratyekabuddhas, they too have already received numerous and profound Mahayana teachings. Moreover, they also diligently teach the principles of Mahayana Buddhism to others. All the Buddha's disciples, including many devoted disciples and practitioners, are also attentively listening to the profound Dharma from the venerable Śrāvakas and enlightened Arhats, absorbing their wisdom and guidance. After hearing the Dharma, they also contemplate it day and night. In other words, they reflect day and night and diligently practice. At that time, the Mahayana teachings given to them by the Śrāvakas and Pratyekabuddhas, they practiced diligently. At this time, the Buddha also gave them predictions. You see, before the Śrāvakas and Pratyekabuddhas received predictions, because the Śrāvakas and Pratyekabuddhas were teaching Mahayana Dharma to the Mahayana disciples, at that time the Tathagata gave them predictions. He said that in the future, in a certain Buddha land, you will become such and such a Buddha, and at that time your Buddha name will be such and such, your retinue will be of such and such a number, and so on. All these predictions were given one by one. In this way, in our case, when it comes to the Śrāvaka vehicle, in fact, it's actually not just about the Śrāvakas themselves alone. In ancient times, within early Buddhism, it could also be said to be the Śrāvaka vehicle. They would also teach Mahayana Dharma to Mahayana Bodhisattvas. Of course, as for these Mahayana disciples, they not only teach Mahayana Dharma, but also teach the Dharma of the three vehicles, including the different Śrāvaka teachings. It's like how some people today practice both exoteric and esoteric Buddhism. Both schools require studying exoteric teachings and practicing esoteric ones. Similarly, with Mahayana and Hinayana, in reality, it's not like they're mutually incompatible, like water and fire. That's not the case. According to the perspective of the Lotus Sutra, many arhats, in their outward appearance, manifest as Śrāvakas, disciples of the Buddha, but in fact they practice the Mahayana Dharma. Now, as for Śrāvakas and Pratyekabuddhas, just the other day when we thoughtfully held the significant World Youth Buddhist Society, there was indeed a venerable monk from the Theravada tradition, should I properly call him a monk or perhaps a venerable spiritual leader, whose name was Ma Re. We very often refer to him simply as Ma Re. He said he had already read 60 or 70 books on Tibetan Buddhism. I told him, that's great, that's really impressive. Some of our Tibetan Buddhist monks, in fact, haven't read that many books. He said that he studies Theravada Buddhism while also diligently studying Tibetan Buddhism. Among them, quite a few are also studying the Mahayana teachings of Chinese Buddhism. I went there in the year 1999. There was a monk, I've forgotten his name. He was the one who invited me. It was my first time going to Thailand. When I was writing my travel to Thailand, most of the content was completed at his monastery. What was his name again? I can't remember. So many years have indeed passed already. But he also studied both Theravada Buddhism and Chinese Buddhism. He had visited our institute and also studied Tibetan Buddhism. But his study of Tibetan Buddhism wasn't very deep or extensive. He only knew how to simply recite Om Mani Padme Hum. Since I haven't yet mentioned his name, it's fine for me to talk about it here. There are also people who practice both exoteric and esoteric teachings, as well as both Mahayana and Theravada. Nowadays, in some Theravada Buddhist communities, they also study Theravada, Mahayana, and Tibetan Buddhism. There are people like that too. Of course, in Tibetan Buddhism, as everyone knows very well, in fact, all three major and distinct Buddhist traditions are fully and comprehensively present. This includes the fundamental precepts and ethical conduct. All the various views, practical meditative exercises, and ultimate spiritual results are meticulously explained in extensive detail. This truly embodies the profound meaning of the statement, "You will become a Buddha in a future life." The profound and secret teachings of all Buddhas. All the truly profound and deeply secret teachings of the Buddhas are indeed Mahayana Buddhism. This Mahayana Buddhism, in its essence, is actually taught only to advanced Mahayana Bodhisattvas, thereby revealing its true, inherent nature and the actual ultimate reality. It is not taught to us, the Śrāvakas and Pratyekabuddhas, nor are its profound truths or essential points fully revealed to them. So those of the Hinayana themselves truly feel that the true essence of the Buddha's teachings is also spoken of in their own scriptures. but in fact the ultimate teachings of Mahayana Buddhism, such as the Madhyamaka philosophy or the most profound meanings in Vajrayana. In fact, the disciples it is intended for are those of Mahayana Buddhism and not those of Hinayana Buddhism. Therefore, when we consider this in comparison to Hinayana Buddhism, it becomes evident that the Buddha did not fully expound the most profound and definitive Dharma in great detail at that time. This situation can be likened to the parable of the poor son who, despite becoming very close to his father for a considerable period of over 20 years, and eventually came to know everything in the household when it came to the later stages. At first, he truly didn't believe any of it. His own father also disguised himself as a humble sweeper, changed his clothes completely, and then followed him around everywhere. Later on, he came to understand, and even held the crucial keys to all the magnificent and ancient treasure vaults securely in his hands. But at that particular time, he had absolutely no realistic hope of ever truly obtaining them. In the same way, when it comes to Mahayana Buddhism, in fact, many profound principles were also taught to the Śrāvakas, but many of the Hinayana elders only understood and diligently studied them. They had absolutely no desire to truly attain or practice it themselves. This is also precisely what is said in the Śrāvaka vehicle. Although we speak of the treasures of the Dharma, we ourselves do not truly aspire to attain them in terms of our faith and our aspiration. Even though they might talk about it, explain it thoroughly, or even practice it themselves, the true Mahayana ideal, such as, I want to liberate all sentient beings, I want to attain Buddhahood, is simply not present. For them, it is truly about inner quiescence and complete extinction, and they firmly believe they have already achieved profound satisfaction. Once this significant accomplishment is achieved, there is absolutely nothing more beyond that point. Nowadays, some Theravada Buddhists are also like this. In general practice, they place particular emphasis on the word nirvana, quiescence, or the state of nirvana. Many Theravada Buddhist monks, when they are giving talks on this very important topic, there was one monk who spoke about nirvana. His talk lasted 15 minutes. During his talk, he mentioned nirvana 11 times. I quietly counted from my seat below. He said nirvana once, then said nirvana again. I wondered, after the 15 minutes were up, would he also reach nirvana? But he didn't. So they still place a truly great and profound importance on the concept of nirvana, but in the practical reality of their daily lives, when it comes to various tangible things like liberating sentient beings or attaining bodhi, these aspects are not emphasized in the same way. They focus a lot on achieving inner quiescence and ultimately nirvana. Once that state is fully achieved, they truly feel that's entirely enough. Just like what is meticulously described and thoroughly explained in the Venerable Śrāvaka Sutra and also in the sacred Pratyekabuddha Sutra, if we as Śrāvakas were to hear about or come to understand the pure Buddha lands spoken of in Mahayana Buddhism, for example, now we are all practicing just as Amitabha Buddha did during his causal stage, aspiring to purify his land in the future, to create a magnificent Buddha land through cultivation, and also after attaining Buddhahood, to liberate countless sentient beings. After I become a Bodhisattva, I will liberate countless sentient beings. And so on, these kinds of ideas. They have no real interest in them, nor do they feel any joy about them. This is fundamentally, generally speaking indeed, because the doctrinal views are different. For the Hinayana, there is no such thing. Why is this? The reason is as follows. All phenomena are completely empty and tranquil, and neither arising nor ceasing, neither great nor small, neither defiled nor fabricated. They believe that all phenomena are merely empty, a kind of one-sided emptiness. Everything is empty and extinguished. There is no arising, no ceasing. There is no great, no small. Just as it is explained in the Abhidharmakosha, it is undefiled, it is nirvana. Between analytical cessation and non-analytical cessation, after analysis, karma and afflictions have been completely extinguished. It is an unconditioned dharma. After contemplating in this way, no joy arises. There is no such thing as liberating sentient beings. After I attain Buddhahood, how will I liberate sentient beings? There is no such thing. It's the same in our current process of practice. If we keep studying the middle way, study and study, in the end, all phenomena are free from elaboration, empty and tranquil, nothing at all. In the very end, it truly seems like there is absolutely nothing at all about liberating sentient beings. In this way, it might be somewhat close to this kind of motivation. People studying Tibetan Buddhism wish to be reborn in the Pure Land of ultimate bliss. People studying Pure Land Buddhism wish to be reborn in the Pure Land of ultimate bliss. I attain quiescence, happiness, peace. And with this kind of goal, recite the Buddha's name and practice. In this case, actually, this goal is not really a good one either. Therefore, the ultimate thought in Mahayana Buddhism should be that I achieve perfect merit and that sentient beings also achieve perfect merit. In the end, we still benefit and bring happiness to all beings. Benefiting all sentient beings and bringing profound happiness to each and every one of them is truly the most important endeavor. Indeed, it is the absolute top priority and the ultimate main goal we should strive for in our lives. Next, the text states, "For us, through the long and arduous night, a period of profound darkness and uncertainty." These are the Śrāvakas of the Hinayana Buddhist tradition. Actually, the Chinese version is easier to understand. The Tibetan version is quite indeed harder to comprehend. I am particularly happy that I understand Chinese. Otherwise, if I were to explain everything literally in Tibetan, there are some complex parts that, even after looking at them closely for a long extended time, I still can't really understand properly. So you all should absolutely consider yourselves very fortunate and blessed. You are quite lucky that you don't understand Tibetan script right now. The Tibetan version of the sublime Dharma Lotus Sutra, for some profound and intricate reasons, many significant parts of it are not very easily comprehensible or readily understandable to the average reader. For us, who have been wandering in the immensely long and arduous night of samsara, or rather for an extended and considerable period of time, we have unfortunately not cultivated much genuine desire or deep-seated attachment to the profound and illuminating wisdom of the Buddha. This means that it seems the Śrāvakas and Pratyekabuddhas do not seek the Buddha's wisdom, nor do they aspire to attain Buddhahood. They do not seek the wisdom of all aspects or the wisdom of suchness, nor do they aim to eliminate afflictive and cognitive obscurations. There is no craving for perfectly complete wisdom and merit. In the Tibetan version, no interest. That is to say, there is absolutely no sense of envy whatsoever. There is no longing or yearning for it, no deep attachment to it at all, nor is there any aspiration or genuine willingness to actively pursue it. Instead, they profoundly regard their own personal dharma as being ultimately supreme and paramount. They truly believe their own particular dharma is especially ultimate and supremely profound. So for a very long time, what we have been diligently practicing is the singular emptiness taught in the Śrāvaka tradition, the profound emptiness of all phenomena. By practicing the emptiness of self in this specific and detailed way, what is it that one ultimately seeks to attain? It is to be liberated from all the afflictions and worries within the three realms, to be completely freed from them. Then one abides as a last exister, meaning there is only one final rebirth left in samsara, and after that there is absolutely no need to return again at any point. This particular status of being a last exister. First, one gradually attains nirvana with remainder, and then subsequently enters nirvana without remainder, and so on. There are indeed such distinct stages. Therefore, the ultimate goal of the Hinayana path is in actual fact not to aspire to the profound wisdom of a fully enlightened Buddha. In much of their practice, even now, this is the case. They only speak truly of nirvana, only mention things like cessation, peace, and the attainment of the arhat fruit, and so on. But they do not explicitly say, "I truly want to attain complete Buddhahood, anuttara samyak sambodhi." As for being taught and attaining the path by the Buddha, they firmly believe that it profoundly refers to the Buddha's sacred teaching and the significant turning of the Dharma wheel. Attaining these different spiritual paths, in actual fact, does not involve any falsehood whatsoever. If one has already truly attained the ultimate fruit of nirvana, then they believe that this is repaying the kindness of the Buddha. This is generally how the Hinayana practitioners truly see it. There is a significant and revered scripture called the King of Courage among all Dharmas Sutra. In the King of Courage among all Dharmas Sutra, it is said that there are two ways to repay the Buddha's kindness. The first is to attain the undefiled Dharma. The second, and equally important, is to give rise to the mind of anuttara samyak sambodhi, which means unsurpassed perfect enlightenment. If we are to repay the Buddha's kindness, according to what is taught in the Śrāvakayana, the undefiled ultimate fruit of nirvana, this is indeed one significant aspect. As for the other crucial aspect, it is what we commonly call the Mahayana Buddhism. Therefore, the Śrāvakayana practitioners believe that by following the Four Noble Truths as taught by the Buddha, and by continuously practicing the Four Noble Truths, ultimately within the three realms, they are freed from all afflictive obstructions. And if they attain nirvana, this is considered repaying the Buddha's kindness. This is what they believe. They say, although we are truly devoted disciples of the Buddha, we are also considered Mahayana Bodhisattvas, and we talk about some Mahayana Bodhisattva practices, hoping that they may ultimately attain the supreme and perfect state of Buddhahood. In reality, regarding such profound and extensive Mahayana teachings, there is often no genuine aspiration or heartfelt joy for them. In fact, sometimes the Śrāvakas and Pratyekabuddhas, despite their own spiritual pursuits, are a bit hypocritical in their attitudes and understanding. They teach us the profound Mahayana Dharma, but in their innermost hearts, they do not truly embrace it at all. But some of us are like this as well. We talk about Mahayana teachings and how great they are, but when it comes to truly saving sentient beings, it seems we haven't thought about it. I'm so tired. Who has the energy to save others? Those wild sentient beings, those bad people. Should we save them too? I definitely don't want to save this person. I don't want to help this person. If I were to save anyone, it would be those who have a good relationship with me. I want to save them. As for those I don't get along with, I don't even want to look at them right now or say a word to them. If they do come, I will cover my face and then go the other way. If they come in through the east gate, I'll leave through the west gate. Many people, perhaps even among us Mahayana Buddhists, have really quite poor interpersonal relationships. I think some of our truly very quite good volunteers, on one hand, I am very grateful for our volunteers, but on the other hand, it seems that some of our volunteers really, in the biography of Milarepa, it is said that it's like putting ox horns into a bag. No matter what you do, the ox horns in the bag can never lie flat. Because they are all significantly curved, they consistently keep bumping and colliding into each other, causing frequent disruptions. There's constant scheming and conflict, and there will never be a moment of peace. If you really actually carry a big bag of ox horns on your back, it's impossible for it to be balanced. So sometimes on the surface, everyone seems very nice, but in reality, whether it's dealing with problems or in terms of interpersonal relationships, I sincerely hope that those of us who study Mahayana Buddhism, even though we often talk about it so very well, about Samyak Sambodhi and Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, when we recite it, it all truly seems so incredibly real, as if we are even more compassionate than Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. It looks that way on the surface. But in reality, many of our actions, even we ourselves can't see them at all. The other day, I went to a particular place, and a wise monk there said to me, "If he is truly here, then I absolutely won't stay. Either he remains, or I must leave." I asked, "Aren't you a monk? What kind of clothes are you wearing?" Then he fell silent. But in actual fact, this particular mindset has been his prevailing thought for a very long time. If that is indeed the case, then it is truly just a superficial intention. But in reality, the human heart is much harder than almost anything else. In the past, many Kadampa practitioners, these people had never even listened to or contemplated the teachings. Even if they did manage to achieve something, it was all just superficially presented on the surface. I genuinely think that's a really significant failure. If these individuals truly believe that in this modern era, even people who do not possess any religious beliefs whatsoever, even those who don't get along with each other, can completely and effectively resolve situations in a peaceful and harmonious way, and they can be genuinely tolerant and understanding of each other. Two distinctly different religions. For example, I believe in Christianity or I believe in Islam. There are many doctrinal and historical conflicts between them. But nowadays, many people are completely able to coexist and get along harmoniously. Yet even among us Buddhists, not to mention among you lay practitioners, even among lay practitioners, some are really terrible, to be honest, when it comes to interpersonal relationships. I can tell just by observing their expressions and behavior, as soon as this person arrives, just a quick glance and it's obvious. It's quite easy to quite clearly and immediately see that right away. Because when this person comes, he feels uncomfortable. So he says, "I won't eat anymore, I'm leaving." This is something we can really see clearly. Some people are indeed extremely sensitive, and that, in all honesty, is not good at all. That particular day, I actually really wanted to openly criticize them. But since there were a great many people around, I ultimately decided to let it go. I diligently practiced patience and abided in the profound 6 paramitas. I said, "It's fine, I'll settle accounts with you later." I was very gentle and calm about it, fortunately indeed, back then. Otherwise, if I had acted out there rashly too, it certainly wouldn't have been good or appropriate for anyone involved. So, in this particular important religious context, the Śrāvakayana teaching discusses the Buddha's sacred path to the Buddha's disciples. In our everyday reality, we never truly and deeply aspire to attain the ultimate state of Buddhahood. Among many of our cherished Vajra friends, even when we gather to listen to profound esoteric teachings together, if it's like this, it's really quite frightening. Sometimes, if these people are really truly in the same setting, on the same mandala, in the same place, if that is indeed the case, then after carefully listening to these esoteric teachings, it might not actually be entirely good for everyone. In your heart, you might genuinely think, if you are truly here, then I will certainly leave. This kind of situation nowadays is quite common. I have personally been to many different countries,
And they, unfortunately, don't have the truly inclusive, compassionate mindset commonly found in Mahayana Buddhism. Different ideas and different diverse viewpoints and perspectives prevail. Oh, I don't accept your viewpoint, and you don't accept mine, but the two of us still need to have a... If we have to leave at the same exact time together, there should definitely be some common ground shared mutually. If we devoted practicing Buddhists, especially those of us wearing monastic robes here, still talk carelessly like this negatively, then compared to regular lay people. Some people who haven't even truly taken refuge in the Buddha are actually much more open-minded and receptive. So sometimes we really need to deeply reflect on ourselves and our own perspectives and ask ourselves honestly, right? It's not about questioning others, but questioning ourselves. Ask yourself if you feel ashamed. Today I'm only speaking to a small group of people. But in reality, this kind of phenomenon is actually quite common and prevalent among many Buddhists, you could certainly say. For example, when we all go to release animals together, if that particular person is going to be there, then I simply won't come. If that person is in your car, I won't come. If that person is at your table, I won't come either. In the past, we went to a place and indeed discovered that during the time of His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok, there was someone who truly broke their vows, someone who was very disrespectful to His Holiness. This person was very well known. At first we didn't realize it, but eventually we found out. This was someone who had truly broken their vows and everyone could see it. At that time we all left, because it was very obvious everyone in the entire institute knew about this person. Aside from that, I think generally speaking, such phenomena absolutely should not exist within Mahayana Buddhism, whether it's sharing a car or staying in the very same hotel, or indeed in any other similar situation. What is the true spirit of Mahayana Buddhism? Everyone should also take a moment to deeply reflect upon this. Next, it elaborates on how our revered teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha, after carefully observing and comprehending these profound teachings, diligently observed and scrutinized his own mind, and upon seeing and understanding these teachings clearly. Initially, he did not actively encourage them to enter into the profound and expansive Mahayana Dharma. Furthermore, he also did not use any specific words or expressions that conveyed such an intent or meaning to them. In Tibetan, it is profoundly said that, yes, that is precisely what it means. The revered teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha, meticulously observed the intricate workings of our minds. After carefully observing our minds, which are naturally inclined toward the Hinayana path, he realized this profound truth, and for the time being he did not teach us the complete Mahayana Dharma. He temporarily set it aside for a more opportune moment. In terms of temporary setting aside, he did not teach us the Mahayana Dharma at first. At the very beginning, he did not truly encourage us to actually enter the great Mahayana Dharma. He only spoke about things that were truly beneficial, things that were of real benefit for our daily lives at that time. Temporary emptiness, or matters temporarily beneficial to Hinayana. According to the meaning in Chinese, this might be explained, but in Tibetan, after the Buddha observed. He did not teach us right away, and he also did not teach us the most definitive or truly esoteric teachings at that very particular time indeed. There is a rather significant and noticeable difference in the precise literal wording. It's very much like the exceptionally wealthy and wise elder, who clearly understood that his beloved children's minds were still very much immature and undeveloped. So, at that crucial time, he skillfully and cleverly used a skillful means to first gently and effectively tame their young and impressionable minds. And once they were truly able to truly accept it, he officially entrusted all of his substantial wealth to them finally. This is very good and wise. So when we are just starting out fresh, we must truly understand that a person naturally matures gradually, step by step, progressively. Otherwise, some of us now have family members who don't believe in Buddhism, and we strongly urge them, quickly take refuge immediately now, saying, you absolutely must take refuge right now, you cannot delay at all. Whether they take refuge or study Buddhism, there is a certain process. Don't rush it all at once, you see. If you think taking refuge is great, you insist you must take refuge now. And if you don't take refuge, I won't talk to you. Sometimes this particular approach really needs to be carefully reconsidered, right? Just look at the old elder. He spent a full 20 years and it was his very own son to begin with. If it were us, we certainly wouldn't want to wait that incredibly long. We'd just ignore you out of laziness. He was my son to begin with, and now I just happen to need a son. I will just tell you directly and quite simply, that's enough. All of the accumulated wealth would be completely handed over to you. Why go through 20 long years of great torment and suffering? There's really no need for all that trouble, right? But this is a kind of wisdom. So when we are trying to help sentient beings, we need to have a certain patience. Without patience, it really is quite difficult. The Buddha was indeed the same way. He consistently displayed these truly rare and extraordinary actions. He also understood those who were content with lesser teachings. At such times, he would wisely use skillful means, using the profound methods of the three vehicles to first tame their minds, to first subdue their minds. Once their minds have fully matured, then teach them. In the end, teach them the great wisdom and profound dharma. The most profound teachings of great wisdom are given at the very end. This is also the case in Tibetan Buddhism, in Vajrayana. Why do we first practice the 500,000 preliminaries? I think this is very good. When practicing the 500,000 preliminaries, some people truly lack enough faith or ability in the Dharma by the end, and they fall away in the middle. If they fall away, it means they are not yet mature. Some people, no matter what, are truly sincere at heart. They keep making continuous efforts. By the time they finish practicing the 500,000 preliminaries, their minds are basically already tamed and flexible. At this point, if you directly teach them the Buddha's most profound wisdom, it's like a vast, barren, and utterly desolate land, a landscape that has been meticulously cultivated and thoroughly prepared with great care and attention, so that when you finally plant the precious seeds, they can fully and robustly sprout, flourish, and grow into strong, vibrant life. It's the same principle. If our very own foundation is indeed especially stubborn, truly hard to transform, and quite difficult to tame, then we can certainly utilize other effective methods, relying on both self-effort and the help of others to soften it. Then any Dharma teaching can be received. We become a vessel for the Dharma. Otherwise, it's like the milk of a lion. If you pour it into an ordinary iron vessel, it will burst apart. However, if you carefully pour it into a truly golden vessel, it can be perfectly preserved. This is indeed a very insightful and good analogy. Today we have already obtained many remarkable things that we genuinely never had before, and also things we never even remotely imagined, truly not previously hoped for. In the past, we never even truly thought of them. It was quite completely unexpected. But today we have already received them. It's just like the poor son who obtained countless precious treasures, which he had never even imagined before. At first, he was just diligently sweeping the floor, and later he was managing the entire storeroom, a significant and important responsibility, but he never expected it. It was only when the old man truly died that he realized he was his biological father. At that very moment, he deeply wanted to serve him well, but alas, it was already far too late. He was gone forever. So he probably felt a profound sense of regret. My father, who was always so incredibly good and supportive to me, is now tragically no longer here with us. It's just like this, in the world. There are things we haven't had for a very long time, or never had at all. But sometimes we do end up receiving them, especially when we obtain such a wonderful Dharma. In fact, this opportunity is also extremely rare. At that time, Venerable Kashyapa said, "World-honored one, whether it is the path or the fruition that we have truly attained today, they are truly free from all defilements." The previous undefiled state in the Śrāvakayana was only temporary. You could truly say it was just similar to the real thing, a mere resemblance. But this, in contrast, is indeed the truly undefiled Dharma. We have also gained the pure and discerning eyes that can completely and thoroughly perceive all phenomena, every single aspect. For a long time, we have spent countless nights over a long period. In actual fact, we have consistently upheld pure precepts in the past, and from the very beginning, we have always maintained a pure and unwavering discipline. Actually, today, they firmly believe this is the direct result of diligently maintaining pure precepts.
Why is it that today we are able to encounter the true teachings of the Buddha? It truly and profoundly opens our eyes. In fact, this is also the significant result of our long-term dedicated efforts, such as diligently upholding precepts, making generous offerings, and engaging in many other virtuous and beneficial deeds. They also have deep devotion and faith in the law of karma and its effects. Otherwise, as ordinary people in the world, we probably wouldn't think this way. We might think that everything today is due to our own abilities. We wouldn't realize that this is actually the result of keeping precepts, or that it is due to the blessings of the Buddha. There are many different aspects that we might not fully consider. The Buddha is the Dharma King, and within the Dharma of the Dharma King, we have practiced the pure conduct for a long time and have also upheld the pratimoksha precepts. Today, relying on their power, we have attained the undefiled state and have also received the supreme and great fruition. From today onward, we have truly become Śrāvakas. Before, we were fake Śrāvakas. Previously, we were merely fake monks. But now, we are truly, genuinely, and authentically Śrāvakas. Because relying upon the profound and deep path of emptiness of the Buddha's Mahayana, this particular kind of voice has now truly allowed us to hear everything clearly. You could say that all the teachings, both great and small, Mahayana and Hinayana, we have already heard them all, I believe. Previously, we only heard some of the Hinayana teachings, the voice that leads to attaining the fruit of arhatship we had already received. That is why we were called Śrāvaka disciples. But now we have heard both the Mahayana and Hinayana Dharma, so now we are truly Śrāvakas in every sense of the word. Today we have truly attained the fruit of arhatship. In this world indeed, whether among all the powerful gods, fearsome demons, or even the exalted Brahma gods, we are truly worthy of receiving offerings from each and every one of them, now at will, because if one truly and sincerely attains the profound state of a Mahayana Buddhist, including humans and gods, just as it is stated in the Bodhikaryavattara, from the very moment that bodhicitta arises in our own mind stream, our name changes to Bodhisattva. In terms of meaning, we become a field of offerings for humans and gods. Just as it is stated here, we become a field worthy of offerings, because they have already generated true Mahayana bodhicitta, the immeasurable and profound great kindness of the world-honored one, as well as these truly extraordinary and extremely rare events that manifest his divine wisdom. He is infinitely compassionate, tirelessly liberating countless sentient beings from suffering and universally benefiting each and every one of us, and throughout countless eons and innumerable lifetimes, no one can ever fully comprehend or adequately repay such boundless and profound compassion of the Buddha, is indeed truly a great kindness to every single sentient being. For us Buddhists, it is very important to always have the mindset of deeply repaying the Buddha's profound and sacred kindness. That is to say, in order to truly repay the Buddha's immense and heartfelt kindness, we humbly offer our hands and feet, make sincere prostrations with our heads, show profound respect, and make all kinds of generous offerings, yet we still cannot truly repay even 1% or 1,000th of the Buddha's immense kindness. Even if we were to carry the Buddha on the top of our heads, or bear him on both our shoulders, even if we did this with utmost respect and effort for eons as numerous as the sands of the Ganges, showing wholehearted reverence, and offering all kinds of exquisite and delicious foods and countless precious and luxurious robes, as well as the finest, most comfortable bedding and various beneficial and nourishing medicinal soups, and also fragrant and rare oxhead sandalwood, which is a very famous and highly regarded type of sandalwood, specifically originating from India, and magnificent stupa temples, meticulously crafted from all kinds of incredibly precious and rare treasures. Do we happen to have any genuine oxhead sandalwood available here now? No, right? This is definitely not what we are looking for. All kinds of precious, exquisite robes were laid on the ground, along with beautiful carpets, all very fine and luxurious, offering such things to the Tathagata, to all the Buddhas, even for eons as numerous as the sands of the Ganges, still could not even repay the Buddha's kindness. In fact, the Buddha's boundless kindness should be remembered gratefully. From the important essential compilation of the Lotus Sutra, teaching scripture, among all possible material offerings available, the offering of Dharma is most supreme indeed. Only the genuine, sincere offering of Dharma can truly repay the Buddha's infinite, profound kindness. The essential compilation of the Lotus Sutra also explicitly says this statement. Among all offerings, of course, the offering of Dharma is the best. And among Dharma offerings, it is the offering of the Buddha's Dharma. Although we are no longer able to see the Buddha with our own physical eyes in this present time. In fact, as explicitly stated and thoroughly explained within the revered text known as the Ornament of the Mahayana Sutras, it is precisely detailed that there are two distinct categories of offerings, specifically direct offerings and indirect offerings. About direct offerings, the virtuous and dedicated teachers and such that we can see in person now. Indirect offerings, we cannot see them. When we make offerings in front of stupas or Buddha statues, this is called an indirect offering. In fact, the merit is the same. This will be explained later in the Treatise on the Ornament of the Sutras. Offerings are like this as well. Also in the past, there is a story in the biography of the Lotus Sutra about a monk named Wuxing Bhikshu. As for Wuxing Bhikshu, he especially cherished making Dharma offerings. He would often, I think it was the Lotus Sutra, explain the difficult-to-understand parts to others and teach them the profound principles that are hard to express, and frequently expound upon some profound and intricate doctrines that are often quite difficult for many to fully comprehend and grasp. In the end, he developed a truly great and unwavering faith in the entirety of the sacred Dharma. Later, on one particular occasion, the enlightened Buddhas from all 10 directions of the universe collectively sent him a clear and resonant voice from the sky. This divine voice distinctly said, from the biography of the Lotus Sutra, even if you fill the 3,000 great thousand worlds with treasures and make offerings to all the Tathagatas of the 10 directions, it is not as meritorious as upholding, reciting, and reading even a single verse from the Lotus Sutra through which one can attain Buddhahood. There are also profound and meaningful verses that follow this. After hearing this truly remarkable and enlightening voice, he attained the deep and unwavering forbearance of the non-arising of dharmas. So now, when we diligently study the Lotus Sutra, we can truly appreciate its profound teachings. According to the detailed biography of Wuxing Bhikshu just mentioned, even if the countless worlds are completely filled with precious and invaluable treasures, and you make generous offerings to all the Tathagatas of the 10 directions, it is still not as truly meritorious as diligently upholding and reverently reciting even a single sacred verse from the profound Lotus Sutra. This profound practice leads to attaining Buddhahood even more swiftly and directly. So, even if we spend such a considerably long period of time listening every single day, upholding, listening, and reciting, here it says upholding. As for upholding, I think that our lectures on the Lotus Sutra also count as upholding it. And for you who are listening, it is the same. This also includes your respect for the Dharma texts, placing them on the altar as an offering. Indeed, all of these actions are acts of genuinely upholding the sacred Lotus Sutra. If you don't believe in cause and effect, that's another matter. But if you do really believe in cause and effect, I think that everyone present here today, what we are doing here is truly meaningful and profoundly significant. I have noticed that there are considerably fewer people online today than usual. I wonder why that is the case. Oh, I just remembered. It's a public holiday, specifically National Day. So many people have understandably gone out to celebrate or enjoy the festivities. That is truly quite a pity, it really is, and it's rather regrettable to see things turn out this way. By going out like that, they've broken the lineage, unfortunately. It's really a bit of a pity, unfortunately, but there's nothing we can do right now. There's not much left to do. We're almost completely finished now. Indeed, all Buddhas are truly rare and exceptional beings. All Tathagatas, these enlightened ones, are profoundly and extraordinarily rare, immensely precious, and utterly invaluable. They truly possess immeasurable, boundless, and very inconceivable great miraculous powers. The merits of each Buddha are beyond comprehension. Moreover, they possess the truly true, the original, undefiled, and unconditioned Dharma. Therefore, they are truly the true Dharma kings. All Buddhas are indeed. They can also patiently endure these difficult matters, even for all inferior sentient beings. For example, those of us who truly do not understand emptiness, who cannot truly liberate sentient beings, there are indeed many like this. As ordinary people, we simply cannot endure it. If you are here, then I am not. If I am here today, then you are not around. So in this world, unfortunately, it's very difficult always. If you are in this world existing, then I won't be here anymore. If I am here existing, you cannot tolerate it. In a single mote of dust, there are as many Buddhas as there are motes of dust. On a single tiny speck of dust, countless Tathagatas can all coexist peacefully. But we as humans can't be patient even in one single place. Honestly, many people are truly like this, aren't they? I have personally traveled to the fascinating countries of Namibia and Lesotho in the vast continent of Africa. Unfortunately, there are quite a lot of dangerous bandits and criminal elements present in those regions, but some of those bandits, they wouldn't say things like that. If you are truly here, I certainly won't be. If I am indeed here, you definitely won't be. Those formidable black people look quite fierce to me. But sometimes, however, when you interact with them, regardless of whether they are black men or black women, they are all very, very compassionate individuals. When I approach them, they truly feel that way too, in a very profound sense. I've never heard anything like that when interacting with them. Honestly, if I put it this particular way, personally, I really feel like I'm even much worse than those black bandits, actually. You see, the merciful Buddha can tolerate people like us all, even the most inferior and intolerable awful things. They can endure them all gracefully indeed. In front of ordinary people who cling to appearances, he can completely and fully adapt to their individual capacities and teach them different Dharma methods accordingly. For those with greed, he teaches methods to counteract greed. For those with anger, he teaches methods to counteract anger. For those who are attached to reality, he teaches about attachment to reality. Where else can you truly find such an educator? A lot of our education nowadays is very extremely rigid, you could quite say. Everyone is required to do things the same way. So what exactly is the result of this approach? Therefore, if we truly offer different courses to different sentient beings, it is indeed extremely meaningful. So trying to solve everything with a single textbook is actually very difficult. This is also the reason why all of the 84,000 Dharma teachings were expounded. In fact, the Buddhas within the profound Dharma have already attained true and complete freedom and true and ultimate perfection, and they also fully know the various inclinations and heartfelt aspirations of all sentient beings, as well as the level of understanding and comprehension that they possess, and the varying different degrees to which they are truly able to accept and internalize these truths. He consistently provides them with an abundance of insightful analogies and numerous valuable teachings, and expounds the Dharma to them. On one hand, the Buddha himself has realized the true nature of all phenomena, otherwise he would not be able to teach others. On the other hand, he knows the capacities of sentient beings. Sometimes we ourselves do not understand, and sometimes we simply do not know what others' capacities truly are. Therefore, we still cannot teach according to the capacities and inclinations of sentient beings, nor according to some of their habits. But the Buddha is truly able to teach in all these diverse ways. The Buddha accords with all sentient beings. He precisely knows whether their virtuous roots from past lives have fully matured or not, and thus teaches accordingly. He knows this completely. So in front of those sentient beings who are already fully matured, completely awakened, and profoundly enlightened, he will meticulously teach them the mature, profound, and comprehensive Dharma, which is perfectly suited to their advanced understanding. For example, the one vehicle teaching, the ultimate meaning of the one vehicle. If they have not yet fully matured in their spiritual understanding, then, for a temporary period, he might compassionately teach them the immature Dharma, which specifically refers to the foundational teachings of the three vehicles. Because the Buddha fully knows that sentient beings have different capacities. So this is also very important. This was actually also quite mentioned in the Mahaprajnaparamita Shastra in the past. At that particular time, the Buddha's original homeland was indeed Kapilavastu, and subsequently, the Buddha lived in the city of Śrāvaka. Actually, these two significant places are quite geographically close to each other. Then, many devoted people frequently asked the Buddha, Kapilavastu and Śrāvaka are so close to each other, why don't you live in your own homeland, but stay here instead? Then the Buddha gave three profound reasons. One significant reason is that whether the Buddha lives in a key location like Kapilavastu or Śrāvaka for himself, because he has eliminated all attachment and desire for self and others, there is no difference. But for the sentient beings below, the people of Kapilavastu have attachment and emotional bias toward him. Oh, he's one of ours. This kind of attachment is not necessarily beneficial. That's one reason. As for the second reason, the cities in this country greatly vary in their overall size. Kapilavastu is relatively small. As for the other countries, it was said at the time that there were 900 million households. But this is probably just a figurative number. There may not have been that many. When we went there at the time, actually that place wasn't that big, but there were a lot of people living there. So if he wanted to benefit more sentient beings, it would be advantageous for them. As for the third reason, the sentient beings in Kapilavastu mature more easily. He only needed to explain things to them briefly, because the people there had relatively good roots of virtue. Just a brief teaching, an occasional visit, and that would be enough for them. But in the country of Śrāvasti, there were also many people with incorrect and wrong views, and many individuals there had not yet fully matured or developed. If the Buddha stayed there for a slightly longer period of time, it should be 25 years, if he stayed longer, many sentient beings who had not yet matured would have the opportunity to mature. That is why the Buddha chose this place. So some eminent monks and great masters, for example, when they go to various cities to benefit sentient beings, or when they choose to stay in certain specific places, there should also be differences. Why don't you stay in remote places like Mongolia or Xinjiang? Why do you always insist on going to a particularly good city or a wealthy, rich place instead, or to a particularly beautiful, attractive place? Why is that really? It must be because it's easier to benefit sentient beings here. Even when I truly and genuinely wanted to go to Africa, why have so many truly great and revered masters of Tibetan Buddhism never been here? Oh, perhaps there are more sentient beings to genuinely benefit in America. In the US and Europe, there are more. As for Africa, there are some, but not that many. Especially when it comes to Japan and Africa, in the future, I truly hope, and I strongly suggest if some of us want to go there, the very first and best place to go is Africa. The second is to go to Japan. There are two reasons for this. But as for these two significant reasons, I'll discuss them when the conditions are truly right in the future. Right now, some of your current motivation and foundational understanding have not yet fully matured. When the opportune time is right, I will explain. Actually, in the Mahaprajnaparamita Shastra, there's also an analogy. It clearly states that the Buddha does not compel or force anyone to accept his teachings. It is truly like the warm and radiant sunlight, which shines equally and impartially on all. However, when a flower is truly mature and ready, it will naturally and beautifully bloom. If it hasn't matured, the flower won't bloom. But if the beautiful flower doesn't truly bloom, the warm sun certainly won't ever gently force it to open. It's the same principle. The Tathagata, the enlightened one, teaches all sentient beings equally. However, only those who are truly mature and prepared can accept it. Those who are not mature do not accept it. If they don't accept it, the Buddha will not force them either. So as I just mentioned, many of our Dharma friends, some people, whether it's studying Buddhism, taking refuge, or their practice, definitely have different causes and conditions. Not everyone matures in the same way as you do. So sometimes when we carefully look at others, perhaps your friends, your family, or your relatives, it truly seems like their current conditions are starting to mature quite a little bit indeed. But if they're not fully mature yet, you can't force it. But you also can't give up. We shouldn't be extreme, either giving up entirely, thinking, forget it, I've already tried so many times with this person. Now I don't want to deal with them anymore. I even feel a bit disgusted when I see them. I'll never talk to them again. You can't be like that either. When you're trying to help sentient beings, don't harbor aversion. But you also shouldn't make them feel annoyed or fed up. If you talk to them every day, saying, hurry and take refuge, hurry and take refuge. Quick, 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 time is almost up. According to Beijing time, if you haven't taken refuge by 7:07, then I will completely cut off all of my ties with you, absolutely. You also cannot be too impatient like that, It's like the analogy of the sun. The sun truly shines, but only when the absolutely right conditions come together does its brilliant light truly have a profound effect. When we carefully look at helping all sentient beings and the various causes and conditions of the people all around us, we should observe in this way as well. This is what we've covered today, the 4th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, the chapter on willing acceptance, which is now complete. In the next class, we'll talk about the parable of the medicinal herbs chapter. There's the analogy of medicinal herbs. Earlier, there was the analogy of the old man, and now there's the analogy of medicinal herbs. Many good analogies here.
Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye